So we're ready for the mic. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. I wondered how many of you would be here at 3 o'clock and probably a very long day today, so I'm really excited to have so many of you here in the audience. This might be an unusual presentation, and I'll tell you why. I had 3 challenges preparing for today. One of them is I'm not a PowerPoint person. Right? Am I the only one? No others? Okay. So challenging using PowerPoint, and then how to teach research techniques through a presentation and not active exercises, active learning, demoing, etc. So I suggest that we work together to add information and content to the PowerPoint presentation because I want it to represent your interests and what you need to know about using an academic library. So I need a couple of note takers. Any volunteers? Okay, was that you? No? Young lady? Right? Anyone else? Yes, thank you. Okay, so what I want you to do is, if there's information that we think or you think that should be on the PowerPoint presentation that's not there, let me know. And then when we have questions, I want to make sure that those questions are reflected at the end so I can make sure that content is added to the presentation. Does that sound okay with you? So I know you all have been asking questions at the end of the presentations. That seems reasonable to me unless there's something that's really pressing about part of what I may share and you feel that you really need to know. I'm open to answering questions at that time as well. Okay? So how does that sound? We're going to work on this PowerPoint together, okay? So that you have information that's really, really important to you when you go back to visit the website. All right. So let's get started. Oh, the last one. This one's really important. I'm a walker and a talker, so standing behind a podium is really challenging to me. So David, I'm going to look at you if I'm like veering off and starting to walk and come in the audience. You remind me where I need to be, okay? All right, so let's get started. Who here thinks of themselves as a researcher? Okay, good majority of you, right? Okay, so I want to challenge all of us and the rest of you who did not raise their hands to think about research and your role in it a little differently. So, you want to go to a movie. You're not sure what you want to see, or you may know exactly what you want to see. And not only do you want to go to the movie, but you'd like to have some friends and family accompany you. So you may decide on the movie, you go and look at Rotten Tomatoes, get some critics, reviews, you go to IMDb, you might want to know what other movies this director has directed or the actors, right? You pull all that information together because the objective is to have others accompany you to a meeting or to a movie. So you may put together the information, what's the theater, what's the price, what are possible times. Here are links to the critic reviews, information about the movie theater, and you package all that up and you put it on social media. So next thing you know, you have friends and family commenting, yes, I'd like to go, love the reviews, this is great information, see you at the movie theater. You've done research. You identified an issue or a problem. You found information to address that issue or problem. You package that information to present to others to elicit a reaction or response. And that was them coming to the movie with you. So academic research is pretty much the same process with a couple of additives. And we'll go over that process. But if this is something that you have done in your life, this is something you do, you may have done this for Thanksgiving. We're not cooking, what restaurant do we want to go to? What does everyone enjoy? What are the reviews? What is the prices? Do they have the type of food I like, right? So think about the types of research that you do every day in your life and know that when you're doing academic research, you're basically doing the same process. And I start the presentation with this to really address issues of anxiety, because doing academic research can seem very, very overwhelming and scary and frightening and different. And so know that it's with you all the time. You just may use different techniques and different resources, but you are researchers, okay? Everyone believe me now? Yeah? Okay. Let's get started here. Okay. So, this is kind of our research process, and this is what we're going to go to or go through today. So we have a prompt, we do some discussion, we get some words, we do research, and then we have some end product from that, okay? So we're gonna go through these one by one. Again, if there's questions, we can save them to the end. Note takers, or if you have questions that you wanna ask, be sure to note those now so we can cover that before the presentation's over. So this is actually a true assignment prompt, part of an assignment prompt. 8 to 10 pages. What is this professor asking of me? You need to look at some field study, related literature recordings. You can include class readings, lectures, concerts, etc. What's missing on the prompt is citation style, right? So there's a few elements missing, but basically a professor is telling you, I want you to write a paper or do a presentation on something. So you may look at this and wonder, what am I supposed to do with this? How do I answer this question? What is the question? And so at this point, for an academic library, is where the research begins. This is actually where we would like to see you, to explore this topic, to talk about it, to think about what you might want to write about. And that process is called topic mapping. So we look at what your professor has asked of you, and then we incorporate your ideas, your thoughts about it, right? I have to write an 8-page paper on medicine. Well, how big is the subject of medicine? And if you typed in medicine into an academic database, you could get tens of thousands of hits, hundreds of thousands of hits, depending upon the size of the collection. So thinking about what it is you're interested in researching is part of the research process. So topic mapping is an open brainstorming process, and it's something that you can do with library staff if you come into the library. It's something you can do with your friends, your roommate, your peers, your parents. You could do it with someone you ride public transportation with, right? What do you think about medicine? What is your experience with healthcare? And people's opinions and experiences might influence what you might research. They might have thought about things or know about things that you don't have experience in or had not thought about yourself. So exploring your topic with others is part of the research process. So research can be very social and interactive, and it's not something to be hidden. If we think about the advent of the internet, so scientists can talk to one another, right? What are you researching on? How does that affect my research? How does that information support my ideas and thoughts? So research can be and should be very social, at least some aspects of it, okay? And this topic mapping can take place at any point during the research process. So DACA is something that's in the news quite a bit. And in the library I work, there's a lot of students coming in and doing topic mapping, exploring DACA. What is it? Who does it affect? When did it come into law? What's happening with it now? What's the controversy? How is this connected to migration issues? Right? So those are things that we can explore and help to narrow down ideas about what a student may want to research. And then that helps us to connect with the databases that actually have the content that will give us to information that will support whatever those ideas are. Okay? So we've done our topic mapping. We kind of have an idea as to what we'd like to explore, what we're interested in writing about, and therefore researching. So what do we do with that information? So some of the outcome of that topic mapping might be words that we decide that we will use to help with our research. And those are typically keywords. So if, actually, I'll give an example of someone I helped this week. So this is a person who had already done a lot of research. Their thesis was related to prison overcrowding and its effect on prisoners and the rate of return to prison, the recidivism, right? So they really wanted a personal narrative. They wanted to hear from a prisoner themselves about the effect of overcrowding. You know, how did that impact their stay? How did it impact them staying away from prison? How did it affect them emotionally when they were outside of prison? And so helping her to figure out these are personal narratives, these might be in interviews, and my suggestion to her, if she really wanted to know about overcrowding and its effects, was to not just look at the prisoner perspective, but also the guards, because they might have something to say about overcrowding. They might feel the same way as prisoners, right? It's uncomfortable, it's dangerous, it affects me emotionally, I feel more aggressive and violent because I don't feel safe with so many people around me, right? So if the issue was prison overcrowding and a personal narrative was needed for her research, then adding a different perspective could give more information and lend more credence to what it is she was writing. Does that make sense? And so after we had that discussion, she really thanked me because that was something that she hadn't thought of. So again, by including others in your research ideas and interest can really bring new information to the fore in ways that you hadn't thought of before. So I kind of know what I want to search. I have words that will be useful, and so where do I get started? And choosing a database is important as well. So now that I kind of have an idea of the perspective of what I want to search, then I need to figure out the best place for the information that I'm seeking. And let me go back to the previous slide because I left off subject terms. So subject terms is something that you will see when you're actually searching in a catalog or a database. And the subject terms are part of the citation. So the bibliography, where you see the author and the title, the publication information, you will see subject terms. And what those tell you or give you some idea about is what information will I find in this resource, whether it's a book or an article. What is this about? What does it pertain to? And with that information, and these are hyperlinks within these resources, you can actually click on one of them to go to more of that like source within the database that you are using. And that can help you to change the structure and focus of your search. I really like this that the database has shown me, and I'm going to use that search term to find more and then add some of my other terms as well. So note takers, make a note for this section so you can put some screen captures in that area to really illustrate what it is that I'm sharing right now. Okay? And subject terms, we can think of them as hashtags within a system because they aggregate like subjects together. And so that's really, really helpful in your navigation. And you can do this kind of searching with print material as well. So say if you found a book in the library catalog that really touched on the subject that you're doing research on, you can write down that call number of the book and go to the location where it is in the library, and then look at the books around it. Because call numbers aggregate same subject material together as well. So not everything needs to be searched as an original search. You can build upon what you've already done, or resources that others may have included in content that you're interested in. Okay? How are we doing so far? Yep, all right. So let's get back to where do I start? So what resource do I choose? And this is another place where the library it can be instrumental in helping you with your research. I work at UCLA, and UCLA has over 700 proprietary databases. Those are databases that we pay for. And there are hundreds of thousands of full text items within those databases. There are millions of bibliographic citations, and those databases cover every discipline that's taught on this campus, from the South campuses with the biomedical sciences and the hard sciences, all the way up to the humanities, which are located in the northern part of campus. So when it comes to choosing which database, that is really key to the kinds of resources you find. And if we think of the topic mapping exercise, where that really kind of helps us to think of our approach, doing that ahead of time will help us to figure out what database we might want to look in. So, you know, we have databases, if we think of the DACA question, for instance, if we're interested in looking at it from a sociological perspective, you know, what's the impact on society? What's the discussion that's taking place in society? Are we looking at the emotional impact of what's happening to families that may be split apart because of what's happening in our country right now? Are we looking at the legal aspect? What is the law? You know, what does the law say? Who's helping people who are subject to issues related to DACA? You know, what kind of legal services may be available? Who is actually helping individuals? What is the politics? Not necessarily, not only in the United States, but in the countries where people are coming from, right? There's a lot of different groups that are being impacted. So depending upon the perspective that you are interested in focusing on in your research, you might choose a different database. So you might look at sociological abstracts. I'm interested in how it's affecting women and children, so I might look at a gender database. I'm interested in alternate points of view, not necessarily Western or from standard news sources and articles. So I might look at an alternative news database that looks at perspective from the people who are actually affected by it. Or these resources could be in a different language. So any of you who have second, third language skills, an academic library is a great place to put those to use, because academic institutions have international researchers, right? People come from all over the world to use resources at academic institutions. And publications happen all over the world. You know, the United States is not the only place that has scholars and researchers that are publishing on different subjects, okay? So that choice can be key to a successful and easy search for resources. And getting help from the library is a good place to start. All right, so citation tools and database mechanics. So within the academic databases themselves are a lot of tools that are set up to help you with your research. So one of the first things that happens is when you start to type in a subject, you might see that subject pop up to the top of the list before you finish typing it. And if that happens, that is the system itself telling you, it's communicating with you, yes, I have resources that might be of interest or related to your topic. So in doing that, the suggestion or a strategy for doing research is to start broad and very general. So if we were doing the DACA search, for instance, we're not sure if we're in the right database, maybe, maybe not, just go ahead and type DACA. Don't do emotional impact, don't do location, don't do any of those things. Because right now we're just kind of on a fishing expedition. If you write DACA, impact, law enforcement, Los Angeles, you might not get anything. Because that information might be in an article that talks about different cities, and Los Angeles might not be the main city, right? Or it could be a comparison with several cities. So starting big when you begin, just to see, am I in the right place? And then if you are in the right place, then you can start adding some of the search terms, the keywords that you picked out when you did your topic mapping. Okay, DACA, families, California. So you started off broad, might get a lot of hits, I'm in the right place. You add another search term, it will narrow it down more, and you can continue to add search terms until you get to a set of results that are very useful to you. Or you might find, I'm not getting the results that I want. Do I need to change my words? Or do I need to change where I'm doing my search? For instance, if you are looking for the legal history of DACA, you might not find that in an article. Or you might find it as a small part of an article because they're setting the stage for whatever their argument is. I'm defining my terms. This is DACA, right? But if you want to know how it came about, you might look at a book. Because books, there is enough time and that has passed for scholars to do long-term research and publish. Articles have a much faster turnaround, and they often have to do with much more current events, especially if we're talking about sociological issues, a narrow portion of a larger event, right? But a book, if we're looking for history of something, or something has, 5-10 years have passed about that issue, then looking in a library catalog for a book might be your best approach. So again, it's the library as a source of help to figure out what you would like to do. Where's the best place for me to find information? What kind of terms would I need to add or change in order to get the resource that I want? Also within the databases, there's mechanics that will help you to save your citations, to email information to yourself, and those are things that you want to look for. And they are common in academic databases. So look to see, where is it that I might, if it says set up an account, what does that mean? Take a look. And it could be that you can just save your research, don't have to recreate it, you don't have to use a separate tool to save your citations. You go back to that tool, you can access what it is that you found and you saved, and then oftentimes you can send those citations to a bibliographic citation tool, management tool like Zotero. So note takers, can we make a note here for me to send a link to different kinds of citation management software, tools, and guides that are available for you, okay? So those are really, really helpful. There's also citation tools that allow you to create a citation in a specific style. So it might be APA, it might be MLA, it might be Chicago, depending upon what your professor has asked for. And the systems are set up that they create those citations for you. So you can just create it right there, copy and paste it to wherever you would need it to be, and then go on with it. I do strongly suggest that if you do copy and paste citations from a database, that before you turn in your final product, you check and make sure that all your citations are consistent, because you may have gotten them from multiple places, right? And these systems are as smart as we are, and they make mistakes because there might be mistakes in the content. So you want to make sure that everything is consistent and correct before you turn in your final product. Okay? Oh, one last thing about the databases is oftentimes there might be multiple databases at one vendor site. So for instance, we at UCLA subscribe to resources that are provided by a vendor called ProQuest. And if we went to a ProQuest database and opened it up, there would be a list of about 50 different resources that we could cross-search potentially. So you could look at the gender database, the sociological database is there as well, psychology database, and then you might want to look at the Los Angeles Times and New York Times. What is the discussion about this issue? The popular discussion. Why are we talking about this as a society? And then use information that you might find in those newspapers to help you to even think more specifically about your approach with the academic resources. So something else in addition to the citation management is to look and see, are there multiple sources that are available to me within the site that I'm searching. Okay? How are we doing? Doing okay? All right. How am I doing for time, Dave?
32 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right, so our final product.
Well cited.
What was that?
Well cited.
Well cited. We got our paper prompt. We explored our topic, our interest, figured out what we would like to focus on. We went to the library to get help with the resources to support what it is that we would like to research. We collected our citations. We wrote our paper, and we turned in our final product. And all of you got an A+. Yay! Right? Yay, yes. Okay, so let's see, what else do I have here? Okay, so a slide that I did not include, so note takers, let's add this one. And this would be about the different types of material that's available. So format, you know, how do we identify a scholarly article, a popular article, a primary source, a secondary source. These are all things on those paper prompts that your professor might say, hey, you're going to write this paper and I want you to use 2 primary sources, 2 secondary sources, a book that was written in the last 10 years. So how would I identify those in a library catalog or an article database? And there are tips and tricks to do that. So we'll add that to the presentation before we upload it. And again, this is something that you could come into the library and we would talk to you about that. You know, what is that? How do I identify that source or that particular type of source, whether it's in print or it is online? And actually, many of the databases have filters to help you with that, right? So I do my big search, I start big, I'm narrowing down with my search terms, and now I know I just need academic, scholarly, or peer-reviewed sources. So now I will pick my filter, and it will filter out all the popular resources that are not part of my requirement. So learning to use academic databases will really save you a lot of time and energy. Any questions about that? It sounds pretty good, huh? Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. I think that's very cool. So we'll be sure to add that to our presentation. And we've got to our final product. So, Lawrence Clark Powell, the library that I work in, which is next door. The building is named after him, very well known in the library world. It actually helped to create the UCLA library system as it is today, which is 11 libraries, 10 on campus, and again with resources and material that support all academics that are taught on this campus. And so there's a reason why we are in school. There is a reason why we are doing academic research, right? We're curious. We're curious about our world. We see things that we're interested in knowing more about. We see things that we are interested in finding solutions to. We are looking forward to our future, maybe in looking at the past or the present, right? We're tackling issues. We are curious people. Academics are curious people. And so libraries are a place of resources that will help you with that curiosity, you know, to help you to fulfill that curiosity and hopefully open up bigger doors and interests and maybe change your perspective. You know, some people get really uncomfortable with research. I had a instance where I do outreach and instruction to veterans on this campus. And I go and visit them in their space, and we learn how to do research together. And I remember when a soldier said, you know, I'm in this gender studies class, and we're doing research on gender issues and sex reassignment surgery, and I'm not comfortable with this. I don't believe in this. I believe, you know, people are born as they are. You know, a man is a man, a woman is a woman. You don't change. And I'm really having a hard time doing this research and doing these assignments. And so I shared with him that the research and what he is learning does not mean he has to change what he believes in. I mean, sometimes what we learn does change our ideas, right, and our thoughts. But if his core belief is, you know, we are who we are when we were born, the research and writing that he's doing for the class should not change those beliefs. He should not feel threatened by the research. If anything, his eyes could be open and have a better understanding of people who go through that. What are their issues? What makes a person choose this, if they do choose this surgery? What is this all about? And to have better, different, more productive conversations with people that he doesn't believe in their stance. And he completely got that. He completely understood that, right? And was really excited at the idea that he could have really meaningful conversations with people that make him uncomfortable. So allow the research, this exploration, this detective work, your interest and curiosity to lead you to the many types of resources that are available to you in the information landscape. And I know I focused on academic resources and information now, but when you're exploring a topic, when you have an interest, all the information landscape is available to you. You might listen to NPR and hear interviews. You might watch films and movies and learn something, whether they're documentaries or fiction based upon real life incidences, right? You might read newspapers. Why are people going crazy about this issue? What is the problem? Why are we talking about this? I want to know more about this. So sometimes government pages are the best source of information. You want to know about enrollment, school enrollment. You want to know about demographics of public school and private school enrollment. There are websites that information is collected for you. Public school data sets are freely available to you on the federal education site and the California education site. I helped someone once who was interested in learning about the cleanup of the LA River and what was the policy and, you know, what has been written about it. Was there a white paper about it? And came to the library for it. Well, the information that was needed was right there on the Los Angeles County website. All the information was there. So the information landscape is broad, it's varied, and it's available to you and can help you in many levels. But when you have your assignments, be sure that you follow what it is that your professor asks you. Okay? Questions? Yes?
I feel like there are kind of misconceptions about what exactly librarians are in the library for.
Uh-huh.
So would you say that a large part of your job working at an academic institution is to guide research in this way? Like, is it kind of an expectation of students will come to you for this?
Yes, it's a big part of what we do. And I've been a library professional for about 30 years. And it's changed quite a bit. So this idea of exploring a topic is relatively new, right? I mean, it used to be we would sit in our library and hope that you would come and see us. And then we would tell you what we thought was best for you. We weren't necessarily good listeners, in my experience. And so now, I can say for my job as outreach coordinator, a large part of what I do is get out on the campus, in the campus community, and talk about library services, which is why I drove into UCLA today to spend this time with you, right? Students are the best word of mouth. So my thing is, Everything that I shared with you today, that whole research process, the only requirement of our students is just come to the library. Just come and see us. You come in, we will meet you where you are. No question too large, too small. If we can't answer it, we're going to make sure you get to the place where you can get that answer. Okay? So that is what we do. And, you know, I encourage students to just come in, even if you don't have a research prompt, you don't have a paper. Come in and find out what resources are available to you. And as you all start looking for your institution, where you want to go, take a look at the libraries. Do they have the resources that really support my research interests? Do they have the staff? Are the facilities set up in a way that's conducive for my learning style? You know, so changes in learning style. All our furniture, practically all of our furniture in Powell Library is movable. You know, because here are students dragging furniture all across the floor and finding their space. Some like to stand up. Some need to take a break. Some like hard chairs, some like comfy chairs. Some students like bean bags. I want to lay down and you know, have my laptop in my lap and do my work. So really, libraries, academic libraries are becoming more student-centered. So it's not about, you know, when you think you need us, come and see us. We want you to come and see us. And sooner, the better. And then you will help to guide us as to what it is that you need. And then we work around that need. It's not a one-way street. You know, I say research is a team effort, like I've talked about a little bit. It's collaborative effort. So we may have the expertise in knowing what the resources are, how to find those resources, but your expertise is, this is my assignment, and this is what I want to write about. Okay, does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? David?
And you mentioned earlier that even non-UCLA students can come see it, is that right?
Yes, yes. So again, working for UCLA, we have a UC system, 10 campuses. We're a public institution. So we are supported by the taxpayers of California. So when you came to this campus, for those of you who may be visiting for the first time, no gates, right? No guards. Your building was open. You were able to walk in. That is the benefit of this being a public institution. So any of you can come into a library on this campus to get help.
Like with research?
With research. Absolutely. So after today, and I brought business cards with me, so if anyone, you know, wants to set up an appointment or come over and talk after, you're welcome to do that. But we have programs in help high school students. So the idea is to really get students on campus and exposed to the resources that are here, to take the fear factor and the intimidation out of that, to let you all know at whatever level you are budding researchers. And so we help you to navigate through our resources to find information and sources that are in support of you. So all of you are welcome to come and use the UCLA library facilities. And we also, if you don't know, for any of you that might be in a transfer honors program, and that might be all of you, we have a free library card as well. So those are things we can talk about at the end of the presentation. I saw you had your question, or hand. You know what? I really can't hear you. Can you speak up louder or come a little closer?
Oh yeah, I can speak up louder.
Okay.
So, for example, I'm just curious
Uh-huh.
if the resources or the book I need for my research wasn't available at UCLA library.
Uh-huh.
Like, as a librarian, are you gonna order books from another libraries or invest to UCLA library?
Does everyone hear that? Okay, so the service that you're talking about is called Interlibrary Loan, Notetaker. Please add that to our notes. And so what that is a system that takes place typically between academic institutions, but not exclusively between academic institutions, whereas a resource is not available. You know, for example, she's saying it's not here at UCLA. Then we can look in a library catalog that, for us, covers all the UCs. So all 10 campuses, plus some local libraries and other locations to see if anyone has it available. And if that's the case, then through your library card with your institution, you can make an interlibrary loan request. So you don't have to be a UCLA student. It's really the relationship that your institution has with the library that you want to borrow that book from. But that's absolutely something that you can do. I say for our students here, we have over 12 million volumes of books, over 12 million print items available for students to check out. There's usually a good chance that we have what it is that they're looking for. Yes?
I had a question regarding the different types of articles or research available. Specifically regarding popular versus scholarly articles. Like, for example, I know a lot of us are doing more perhaps modern types of topics. So regarding things that perhaps the LA Times or the New York Times or whatever would be speaking to perhaps more than a JSTOR article.
Okay.
But in our research papers and projects, it's obviously considered more scholarly to use a resource like JSTOR as opposed to perhaps like a newspaper article. So I guess my question is, if something is more relevant but considered a less, perhaps, to use the word scholarly again, resource, would you suggest to go with the perhaps JSTOR resource or the more popular resource?
What you would use would depend upon many factors. So one, as I said, whatever your professor says that you have to cite, so if it's scholarly, peer-reviewed, be sure that you do that. But that does not mean that those other resources cannot be cited or utilized. So in popular resources, those are considered magazines and newspapers. So if we think of magazines, it's really information that is pretty accessible to all of us, right? We want to know what's happening in, the planets right now. You might see an astronomy magazine and you can pick it up and read it, and you would be able to explain to your grandmother, like, what are they doing with Mars research? What's happening? What have we sent up there? Who's talking about it? What are we talking about? Information that's easily distilled, understood, it's created for, the major population, right? So that does not mean that it's not useful. Popular resources are great gateways into academic research. So again, what are we talking about? What's something that's going on in the news right now? Okay, so let's say our president, there's questions about his mental health. Right? What is up with his mental health? So we might take a look at an article because it sounds really interesting. And through you looking at that article, you might find, wow, I'm learning that there's some psychological traits going on here that I don't really know about. So through that gateway of curiosity or doing research, you might be doing a paper on psychological research, and you want to use the president as an example. You take that popular information, there might be a list of the psychological issues, right? He's a narcissist, he is, has a weak ego, I don't know, but these might be things that are saying, and you might decide, hey, I'm going to look these things up. What are the psychological terms? How are they defined? What are the characteristics? What have people with these psychological issues, what have they done, right? Are there more of them? How easily identifiable are them? And next thing you know, you've written an academic article and you've cited the newspaper because you did get some information from that. That helped you to decide what you want to write on. Or you might use that as an example of these narcissistic issues and why it's so detrimental for someone to have that trait and be in a position of power. So it's not an either or with scholarly or popular. Again, this information landscape is available to you to really help you to focus on what it is that ultimately you will turn into your professor. But don't fear or be concerned about using scholarly material. Popular material, because it's really, really useful to explore a topic. Now, the scholarly material is really helpful because what do we have at the end? Everybody. Citations, works cited, references, a bibliography. That is a great tool to use to find resources on a subject that you have interest in. You might come across a 20-page scholarly paper. 2 pages or 2 paragraphs might speak very specifically to what your topic is, to what you want to write about, to what you want to learn more about. So go look at the bibliography. Where did they get their information from? From where did that idea come from? From where did they cite this theory? And then you use their citations to advance your own research. You don't have to do original research in order to find material that might be useful for your subject. You can piggyback on what someone else has done. So finding the one book and then going to the area in the stacks where that subject is and looking at the books around it. Going to an article database, clicking on a subject term, because I want to know what other like content is in this site. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Two-part question.
Okay.
So, first of all, so when I do research, a lot of times I go to the library to get to like ProQuest or LexisNexis. But one of the things I've noticed lately is that it's actually easier for me to Google and find academic scholarly articles than it is for me to go to ProQuest or LexisNexis. I've actually had a lot of trouble with that. It's like, go to advanced fields and narrow it down. I just go to Google and it brings up all the stuff I'm looking for. Is there an easier way to utilize those tools so I'm not like sitting here like hours later, another search site from LexisNexis, frustration, and just go to Google? And the second question was also what other resources or services that I may not be aware of that does the library offer?
Okay, so Google versus academic databases. Google is a great search engine with some issues, right? Privacy is one of them, a big one. But Google doesn't own content. There are many items that will show up on a Google search, and if you use Google Scholar, and you might have access to some full text articles. A lot of those came from UCLA. Hundreds of thousands of volumes were taken by Google and scanned and made available in that way. Right? So Google does not own content.
Is that UCLA's content, or is that just
It's many universities content, but again, they don't own the content. They just make way to the content. They make us make it known, but the content is not theirs. So when you access full text scholarly material through Google, if you're using Google Scholar, you're actually connecting to a university or a college that you have access to their full text material. So Google Scholar for UCLA students, again, because of the largesse of our collection, makes a lot of sense for them, okay? But I challenge you all to really learn how to use your academic resources to find material. It can be cumbersome, right? Depending upon the institution that you're attending or where you go, oftentimes there will be a aggregate search engine to search through all the article databases. And UCLA has one that's called Articles Plus. Note takers, if we can add Articles Plus, okay? So that's one that you can type in your subject and it will pull all relevant articles for that subject. Now, the benefit of understanding how that information is put together and how it's linked together is you might go through the aggregate site, whether it's Google Scholar or it's your library search engine, and you click to the article database or the article, and next thing you know, you're actually within a journal itself. And so when you build on your research techniques, you know, hey, I'm in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology, That's where this article is published. That is where I am now. And instead of going back to whatever search engine got me there, I'm actually going to search the contents of that journal. And then you realize I'm actually at a library website. I'm not in Google anymore. I'm actually searching the contents of a library. I tell the students that I work with here at UCLA, if you take the time to invest in learning how to do academic research, you will know how to vet sources, you will know the different types of sources, you will know how to construct research strategies that will get you to your topics. You will learn critical thinking skills because you'll learn how to look beyond the title of the article. What is in the abstract? In order for them to create this argument, what information are they going to give me? They're going to define their terms. They're going to give me some historical context. They're going to set the tone for me to understand this information, right? So if you learn how to use academic databases, work through the frustration, you will be able to do research on any topic, anywhere in the world you have access to the internet. Okay, plug for net neutrality, everyone. Anywhere you have access to the internet, and whether it's for academic purposes, personal, or vocational. You take that time, you invest that time, you visit your library, you make a librarian your friend. We love it. We love it. Okay? We can't get to all of you. You come to us, we're going to make sure that you get what it is that you need. You make that investment, you will be good to go. Be hard to give you fake news, pull the wool over your eyes, right? You will question information as you should, have some skepticism, and find out for yourself. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. And come to the library and learn how to do all that. Any other questions? That's it? Okay, I'm here for questions after we're done. Thank you everyone for having me today.
So thank you once again to Alicia and Riley for coming out. So I just have a couple announcements before I dismiss you. So our next Saturday Academy is going to be on January 27th from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. and you can view the speaker schedule and everything else on our website at cctophd.com. In terms of our scholars, I just have a couple of announcements that are specific to scholars, so if you're not in the scholars program, you can just tune out.